Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of The Push with Nick and KP. We are back for the second part of our If We're Being Honest episodes. This is the WrestleMania 42 Sunday match card. And just like the other one, we're going to go through every single match, give you a rating of good, bad, or horrendous on the builds of each match set to take place on WrestleMania Sunday. Ready for this one, KP?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's get things going.
All right, first match set to take place WrestleMania Sunday, Obafemi versus Brock Lesnar. What's your thoughts on the build for this one, KP?
Well, this is my quota of just talking about NXT for a second. I obviously I love Obafemi. Haven't watched NXT for a while, and seeing him just rise the ranks over there, coming up to the main roster, and just hasn't really missed a beat, and has just been given a massive push to begin with here. I don't like Lesnar at all. Not a fan of him whatsoever in and out the ring. But when it comes to just what he's sort of done for Obafemi here, I guess I do have to sort of give him some credit because he has made Oba look like an absolute beast. And it's been working so far. It's been working wonders for Obafemi. He looks like an absolute credible threat, which he should be because look at the size of him, just the way he's been sort of built. And I think especially last night's entrance for Obafemi on Raw was just brilliant. Like the way he just sort of came to the ring, the fans just going absolutely crazy in the crowd, all getting involved. He has took to the main roster, like Heyman said, faster than basically anybody really ever has since, ironically, Brock Lesnar. So, it's been a good build. I've really liked this one. Just seeing how strong Oba's been up against someone like Lesnar. He's absolutely ready for the big pictures over on the main roster already, which is just insane to say. So, yeah, thrilled for him, ecstatic, and looking forward to this matchup. Um, as to whether, obviously he comes out on top, that's a question for another day, but the build's been good. I've enjoyed it, and I've loved seeing what Oba's done so far. What about you, Nick? How have you rated this one?
Yeah, it's hard to be or not be a little partial because of how fast and how good Oba has looked. Obviously, like you said, we're not the biggest fans of Lesnar, but it does, you kind of have to tip your cap to him and how he's gotten Oba over. Granted, Oba probably didn't need a ton of help, but putting someone like that in the spot absolutely works. You throw a little bit of Paul Heyman in there because he doesn't have quite enough to do this weekend. This is just honestly, this is super simple in terms of build, but in terms of effectiveness and getting Oba to that kind of big status feel, absolutely it's worked. This is one of the best builds of the weekend, definitely in the good category. The next match has Penta defending his Intercontinental Championship against Javon Evans, Dragon Lee, JD McDonough, Rusev, Rey Mysterio in a ladder match. The build for this one, KP, what are your thoughts?
It's probably one of the strangest builds you'll see. Penta just randomly said there's going to be a ladder match. No one knew about the chance of this happening beforehand. Obviously, we all want these things to happen, but no one knew for definite. And then I think it's Michael Cole or someone says on commentary that qualifiers have been taking place on main event, and we're all just looking at like, wait, what? What do you mean main event? Like, no one knew about this, and then randomly, like a week later, we just see these matches coming up on like social media, and we obviously already know the results because the competitors were already announced by Penta and all before it. So it's such a strange way of doing it. Like, it didn't really make any sense. And then just to completely mix things up a little bit more, we have Rey Mysterio just come on out whilst everybody else is in the ring after winning a tag match against Los Americanos, and he just says, "You know what? I'm in this matchup as well, and he's one more person. Let's get me involved too." So yeah, it's just been a really weird build. I can't say it's been good, but I feel like it's hard to say it's bad. But I guess I'm gonna have to. It's a bad build, but just because of it's just been thrown together and there's been a lot of question marks. It's been very unorthodox, and yeah, it's just been a bit weird, honestly. But it's been a bit of a mess. But I'm looking forward to the match. It should be a fantastic match. Look at the stars in that one. High flying capabilities there, and then you got Rusev. Just the power the game that he's going to bring into it. Yeah, he's the anomaly in the contest, but we saw him have a great showing on Raw last night, and yeah, he looks dominant. So I'm excited for this one. Should be a lot of fun, but just probably a bad build, I would say. What about you, Nick? Is this being
Yeah.
critical?
No, actually, I'm sitting here struggling to think if I would put this in the bad or horrendous. I think if you leave out the main event qualifiers, like who did that really need to be done for? Like we see people throwing in matches all the time without any rhyme or reason. It would be nice in a perfect world. If we were running WWE, everyone would have to qualify. That's just not how things are done a lot of the time. So, that didn't bother me. So I think you leave out the main event stuff. I think this one isn't as bad, but also you need to give them a little bit more time. Other than my boy Rusev taking care of all other five men last night, really had much of a build for this. The occasional mention of it in a random tag match here and there. Definitely not a good build. It's definitely teetering between horrendous and bad. I'll give it a bad, but it's definitely on the very, very lower end of that bad. Just because I haven't really been too much. So would have liked to have seen more. I think you could have had a really nice build here, especially with all the luchadors, Rusev, JD McDonough. Like you have good things here, but as you alluded to, in terms of in ring, I think this could, maybe doesn't. You could argue doesn't need a good build, but it would have been nice to have one regardless. But yeah, bad build for this one. The next match has the Demon Finn Balor going up against Dirty Dominic Mysterio. Thoughts on this one, KP?
This one was it was shaping up to be a really good build in the early stages. I love the fact that they had what they did with Balor and Dom, and obviously just the turning of the outing of Balor from the Judgment Day, and then obviously the attack, following up from that one, and Dom seemingly still getting another one over Finn Balor. It was good, and then we had the reveal of the Demon last week on Raw, which is great. I love that. But I would have loved to have seen this maybe be a surprise for those, watching the match live. So obviously we knew it's going to be Balor against Dom, but maybe if Balor just did like a little tease, maybe didn't exactly say that it was going to be the Demon necessarily, but maybe saying like, oh, I got to reach deep down into me, I got to bring a different side out of me, and I got to really just sharpen shot at WrestleMania. Maybe they could have done something like that. And they could have had the Demon, have that entrance to WrestleMania. The pop would have been, probably legendary, and it would have been an explosive situation. So I think they could have done this one better. I I think it's kind of hard to say this one's been bad. I'd probably say it's been good, but maybe like just literally enough to be good. So like it's not like great or anything. But I think they could have done a lot better with this one, just based on what we've had and the content and stuff. I think it maybe has fizzled out a little bit. Last night's episode of Raw, it wasn't really much to go by with this one, except for a little backstage segment here and there. So yeah, I feel like it could have been better, but I don't want to say it's been bad because I am looking forward to this one and I am loving the fact that the Demon's coming back. It's just, yeah, they could have done it a little bit better for me personally. What about you, Nick?
Yeah, I think the Finn Balor turning into the demon bit was again similar strategy to the celebrity involvement. That was kind of the grasp at, hey, let's see if we can sell some more tickets by bringing back the demon. Everybody loves the demon, which is true for both of us as well. But I this is absolutely the longest build of the weekend. Um, but it felt like they really just took their foot off the gas on this one for whatever reason. I don't really know. I guess because if it's going to be Finn as the demon. They want to keep that kind of a bit more mysterious than they typically would. But obviously, how long have we been talking about this thing happening? And so maybe that was their thought process too. Maybe they just thought, well, we've already thrown everything that we can at this. They know what's going to happen. It's been in the works for a very, very long time. Maybe that's their kind of logic. But yeah, definitely bottom tier good, teetering on bad. I would agree because of what should have been. But obviously, most of that stemming from the last few weeks. In the big picture, the video package for this will be really, really good. I have no doubts about that. But they definitely could have used a bit more there at the end. But bottom tier good could have been better. I would 100% agree with that. The next one has Trick Williams going up against Sami Zayn for the United States Championship. KB, this one's a topical one. What do you got?
This one's probably the hardest one to talk about because whether you agree or not with Sami Zayn, winning the US title, that's obviously a conversation for a whole another day.
Yeah.
But the build between him and Trick has been pretty good. They've been pretty heated towards each other. It stems back to when Trick made his debut on SmackDown, interrupting Sami Zayn at that time. And we sort of like, just sort of like stumble and stagger towards the US title situation, and then it starts to pick up again and gets a little bit more traction. So I think it has been a good build. Just the problem is, I think I would have done it completely differently. I would have had this one not been for the US title. Would have wanted Carmelo Hayes, to have been at WrestleMania with that US championship and having a match, in some other capacity. And then this could have been a non-title affair, and it would have been great. No one would have worried about it. No one would have questioned it. and it would have all been fine. So yeah, I do feel like this one has some glaring issues. But if I'm going to remove the US title situation from this one, which it does, that feels, I don't know if that's a cop out, but maybe it is. I'm just going to focus on Sammy and Trick. That has been good because that has built up for quite a while, and it's sort of like, sort of like simmered at the right time. And there is a bit of, hot feelings towards each other. So we've got a little Yachty involved here as well. Again, another unnecessary celebrity being part of this because why not? I suppose. Um, but it's sort of like got a bit of a other side of Sami Zayn for coming on out here, and he's questioning himself and the fans and whatnot, and sort of like wondering what the situation is happening regarding him and their feelings towards him. It's been good, but would have done this so differently in my opinion. But I'm just going to take the fact that Sammy and Trick has been decent. What about you then, Nick? It's hard to separate this one from the match to the championship. I guess they sort of do come in as a package because obviously that's what it is. But yeah, what are you thinking regarding this one? It's quite difficult.
Yeah, 100% agree, and if it is a cop out, so what? You take out the US title scene, I would say this is absolutely a good build, hands down, no question. But because of the kind of the way they did that, for whatever reason, felt they needed to put the title on Sammy. You think that is one of his biggest supporters, and I think Sammy kind of hit on that last night. Like my supporters will always be there, but even they can't, kind of support what you did here. Carmelo was doing quite a good job, and felt like he was probably going to be inserted into this even after Sammy won, but he wasn't. So I'm not sure what that kind of hot potato decision was there. Not hot potato, but just random decision to give it over to Sammy. Um, didn't need it. Trick and Sammy were doing great as well. And then you have the celebrity involvement. If that's another attempt to, I can't think of a ton of people who were thinking, hey, I wish Lil Yachty was at WrestleMania. Like, I don't know. That seems pretty random to me. And honestly, I think Trick had this one of the best entrances in WWE, and for him to come down now with him, kind of singing it along with it, I think they're trying to hit on what Booker used to do, but for me, it's the polar opposite. Like it makes me not want to see him walk
Yeah.
in because of how much like the way he's like screaming well along with it. Like it's pretty
Ugh.
big turnoff for me. And like I said, Trick's entrance was top notch. But regardless, won't go down that rabbit hole. Didn't need his celebrity involvement, and yeah, it is. I will put it as good. Definitely towards the lower part of it too. Um, just because of how confusing this whole thing has been and seemingly thrown, just randomly kind of thrown together with the U.S. title scene. Because yeah, like you said, didn't need it. I think these two would have put on a good match regardless. But this is what we're getting. Just feel bad for Carmelo. That's kind of the elephant in the room, I guess. But I think the match should be great. Build just it's been up and down for sure, but we'll call this one good. The next one has Rhea Ripley going up against Jade Cargill for the WWE Women's Championship. KP, thoughts on this one?
God, this one's a tough one. This one started pretty bad, I will say. Lack of interest, generally speaking, from me personally, when they were comparing physiques for some random reason. And then we sort of stemmed into a bit more of a serious side of things, and we actually had Michin and BFAB, going alongside with Jade Cargill, taking out Rhea Ripley. We then see Sky getting involved, and that's obviously getting very personal in the situation. I think it got better as it went along for sure. If this one had stemmed out as it had been to start with, then who knows where we would have ended up with this one. They would have been obviously they would have been possibly comparing weight or whatever. I don't know. Who knows what the hell they would have been doing. But yeah, thankfully that didn't happen and we didn't go down that route. But it seemed to have got a bit more physical and a lot more personal as it went on, which is good. So I will put this one into the good category only just because it saved itself towards the end of the story, thanks to obviously the part with EO coming on in and sort of being fodder to Jade Cargill. But yeah, I think I wasn't really interested at all in the early stages of this one, but I am getting a bit more interested as time's going on. Maybe that's because I want to see Jade being dethroned, but I don't know. That's a conversation for another day. Yeah, I'd say just about good. It's quite difficult for this one, but yeah, I'd say maybe just about that one. It's elevated BFAB and Meech into a point now, which is quite nice. They do seem a little bit sort of, not quite at the level that's ready for Rhea Ripley, but maybe they'll grow into the situation with Jay Cargill going forward. Who knows? But I'd say just about good. They sort of saved it as they went on. What about you, Nick?
Yeah, definitely there towards the beginning. That was pretty cringe,
Yeah.
and definitely saved it. I agree. It is nice to see BFAB and Michin kind of have a spot in a story. Seemingly they were just walking around ready to get beat up by anyone who challenged them. Kind of felt like that was their role. So nice to have them in there. The inclusion of them kind of felt kind of random. The whole if you can't beat him, join him bit. Didn't love that. But obviously, I think it's kind of helped Jade here. Just the one-on-one confrontations weren't going well. Now they bring attacking EO, and EO's kind of this weird side quest. Once again, if you recall, that was kind of the story last year when they had the triple threat with EO, Rhea, and Bianca, and she was kind of like the footnote. Wasn't really part of it. Didn't feel like she really belonged. She's kind of been thrown into here, kind of similar vibe. But between Jade and Rhea, yeah, it's at least gotten better. So there's that. Do I call this one good or bad though? It definitely on the brink of both. I guess good. Definitely hasn't lit the world on fire, but at least it's felt pretty personal here at the end. Especially with the inclusion of Io and Rhea kind of showing her more ferocious side. Obviously, she's still the face in this scenario, but just doing the respect thing that wasn't working. Comparing physiques that wasn't working. So this is definitely a step up. I would agree with you there. Yeah, I'll call this one bottom tier good for sure. The last and the main event of WrestleMania Sunday, Roman Reigns, the 2026 Royal Rumble winner, going up against CM Punk for the World Heavyweight Championship. KP, how'd you like this build?
I got a feel I'm going to be the minority here, and this could be a little bit of a hot take. But yeah, we started off obviously with this one being the Usos and Punk, and the Usos trying to get an apology out of Punk after what he said about their family. That never really happened. They sort of backed off and let him go after Roman Reigns, and then they have a bit of a brawl, and then that sort of stems to both men taking each other out at ringside. Natural progressions here in this story, which makes sense. We then obviously had the crossover from Pat McAfee in that situation with Cody Rhodes spiraling into this situation. CM Punk delivers the best part of this brawl or of this feud for me personally in his sort of pipe bomb esque segment of last week's Raw. It sort of doesn't help that Roman's been in and out. Sort of similarly to AJ Lee, but Roman's been in a lot more than AJ, which I will give him that. But yeah, it is hard when obviously you're sort of carrying it by yourself for a little bit, which Punk has had to do on a few weeks. Not all of it, but on a few weeks. But just I'm going to put this one in the bad category purely for the fact that, and this is probably quite controversial, I just don't care for this match. I haven't been moved once in this whole situation. The Punk promo last week was good. I thought that was great, actually. But besides that, I've never really been sort of invested in this whole story between the two of them. Yeah, this goes back to last year. There's a bit of jealousy from CM Punk, the whole, so many WrestleMania main events for Roman Reigns. Punk only literally had his first one last year. So there's a lot of sort of like beef between that situation, which I kind of get and I understand, but I don't know, like depending like on everything that's gone into this build and just looking at the match itself, I don't care who wins. I really don't. I'm not invested either way. This is the main event of WrestleMania. I I find that just weird to be honest. Like I'm much more interested in probably any other match in the card, mostly anyway. Um yeah, I don't know. It's hard for me. I'd put this one in the bad category. I'm not gonna say it's horrendous because they've done a job at trying to get things important in here. But yeah, I'm putting it in the bad, which is probably going to be a hot topic. What about you, though, Nick?
Well, maybe a hot topic for the push, not a hot topic for me because I feel like, or a hot take because I don't really care for either of these guys, generally speaking. Their matches just aren't my favorites. So you put these two guys together, on its face, it's super safe. I think that's fair to say. That's what WWE went for. I think they could have had this match not for a title and would have been just as appealing. I think the title kind of feels like it's taken a backstory. It's been there, but it's definitely just more so about the egos of these two men. And so make of that what you will. And they somehow kind of tied this with Pat McAfee and that whole thing as well. So that's been kind of strange. Yeah, I don't think it's a terrible thing to call this as bad. It's essentially for the most part been these two guys cutting promos on one another. As you said, Roman being part-time status still, that definitely hasn't helped. I will say hats off to Punk. You know, he's made this feud feel super personal. Um, most, you know, a good majority of that time, or a good portion of that time on his own. So props to Punk. Um, he's definitely carried this one, but the Usos kind of had to help Roman there for a bit. Yeah, it definitely, I would call this a bad one as well, honestly. It's part of it. You want to, the feud makes you want to look forward to the match. And as you said, kind of similar to that, I don't really care, and definitely not main event of WrestleMania worthy in my eyes. If you were to ask me, I would probably swap the two. Probably put Cody and Randy on Sunday, just because, you know, although we did call that build horrendous, so it may be, you know, a bit controversial there. At least it has buzz around it. Whereas this one just, you know, don't really care who wins, honestly. So yeah, I would put this one in the bad as well. Definitely a lot worse, but definitely have been a lot better. So yeah, make of that what you will. But yeah, our builds there for WrestleMania Sunday. Um, no horrendous ones on Sunday. But 4 out of the 6 good. So make of that what you will. Yeah, curious to get your thoughts on these in the comments below. Let us know. Are you looking forward to WrestleMania Sunday? Have you liked the build? We'd love to hear from you in the comments below, and don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button if you like this video and or what we're putting out there. Would love to hear from you. We will of course have those WrestleMania predictions coming up the next couple of days, but until then, we'll see you soon. Take care.